Lately, over the course of the past several weeks, have you found yourself experiencing an abrupt and overwhelming sense of detachment from your own personal history? Perhaps you have been waking up carrying a bizarre, hollow kind of sorrow for a former lifestyle that you genuinely have no desire to return to. Or maybe you have caught yourself staring at old photographs, only to realize that you feel absolutely zero emotional resonance with the face staring back at you. Rest assured, this strange phenomenon is not an indicator of failing memory, nor is it the onset of a psychological breakdown. Rather, it stands as the ultimate, tangible proof that you have just undergone a profound quantum event. What has actually transpired is that a higher, parallel version of yourself has executed a definitive act of cosmic surgery, permanently shutting the door on your previous timeline. Let me be clear. This concept is not merely some fluffy spiritual cliché or a comforting poetic metaphor designed to soothe your mind after a particularly brutal month. It is, in fact, a legitimate model of existence rooted deeply in the vanguard of quantum mechanics. Specifically, it aligns with the many worlds interpretation, a groundbreaking theory originally introduced by the brilliant physicist Hugh Everett III. This revolutionary paradigm suggests that every single time an event with multiple possible outcomes occurs, the entire universe fractures and branches off. It continuously creates distinct, parallel dimensions where every conceivable iteration of you lives out every possible decision and scenario. Up until recently, you have spent your entire human experience traveling along one very specific, continuous thread of reality. However, that exact thread you were clinging to just a short time ago has now been deliberately severed. The deep disorientation you are grappling with right now, that jarring, uncomfortable sensation of feeling like an actor who has suddenly forgotten their lines in a theatrical production they no longer even care about, is essentially the energetic equivalent of jet lag. It is the byproduct of a massive quantum leap. Even though your waking mind did not consciously initiate this monumental jump, your higher consciousness recognized it as an absolute necessity for your survival. To fully grasp the sheer magnitude of this energetic shift, you must first completely upgrade the foundational definition of who and what you are. The aspect of you that is currently absorbing these words is simply the explorer. This is the conscious, day-to-day mind, tasked with physically navigating the dense, three-dimensional landscape of your earthly life. But there exists an entirely different dimension of your being, your parallel self. This higher aspect operates as the supreme architect and the grand quantum weaver of your entire multi-dimensional existence. While your earthbound conscious mind is restricted to only seeing the tiny fraction of thread directly in front of your feet, your parallel self possesses the ability to perceive the entire, sweeping tapestry of all potential timelines at the exact same moment. It clearly observes the glowing, luminous pathways of your absolute highest potential, but it simultaneously sees the severely frayed, deeply toxic threads of your past traumas, threads that were inevitably dragging you toward a vibrational dead end. Occasionally, when a specific timeline becomes exceedingly restrictive or actively hinders the organic evolution of your soul, this cosmic weaver does not just offer a gentle nudge of redirection. Instead, it forcefully takes out the shears and cuts the energetic cord entirely. This is precisely what a timeline closure event entails. The lingering confusion and profound sense of loss you are battling today are quite literally the phantom pains of an amputated reality. It hurts deeply because your mind is desperately trying to process and reconcile memories from a timeline that has been officially decommissioned, all while your physical cells are scrambling to acclimate to the entirely new physics of your current world. You are now essentially wandering through uncharted territory without a compass or a map, having deliberately walked right past the boundaries of every traditional spiritual teaching you have ever absorbed. Pause for a moment and consider the heavy burden of the emotional baggage you use to drag around daily. Think back to those old, devastating heartbreaks, the crippling career anxieties, and the highly specific interpersonal dramas that used to rob you of your sleep. If you tune into those memories right now, you will likely notice a shockingly cold sense of neutrality. The factual data of the memory is still intact, but the agonizing sting has completely vanished. This happens because the energetic bridge connecting you to that former reality has been completely dismantled. Your parallel self accurately diagnosed that your old timeline was generating significantly more energetic drag than forward momentum. In response, it initiated a radical, non-negotiable spiritual intervention to rescue you from a chronic infection of perpetual struggle, an infection that would have undeniably devoured your entire future. For a long time, you were essentially keeping a deceased reality functioning on life support purely through the sheer, stubborn force of your own willpower. You were tightly gripping a decaying gray thread of history simply because it felt comfortable and familiar. It is a well-known flaw of the human ego to prefer the predictable certainty of misery over the daunting mystery of the unknown. However, your higher consciousness finally arrived at a critical juncture, where the spiritual tax of holding on vastly outweighed the temporary terror of letting go. That ultimate moment of surrender, that profound sensation of hitting absolute rock bottom or feeling completely and utterly exhausted by the repetition of your own tragic story, acted as the ultimate green light. It was the exact signal your parallel self was waiting for, to finally make the cut. Society has conditioned us to falsely believe that genuine transformation requires endless, grueling effort. In reality, the most spectacular quantum leaps of your existence occur the moment your conscious struggle hits its absolute breaking point. Therefore, your recent breakdown was not an indicator of personal failure in any capacity. Instead, it was the deafening sonic boom of a monumental breakthrough. The intense anxiety, panic, and sheer chaos of the past few weeks were nothing more than the severe energetic turbulence generated as your former reality was violently deconstructed, allowing a brand new vibrational container to be rapidly assembled around you in real time. You must understand that you are not some wandering refugee fleeing from a past you no longer recognize. You are, in fact, a newly minted citizen of a glorious future that you have only just begun to discover. This recent shift was simultaneously a promotion, a tactical extraction, and a divine rescue mission, all wrapped into one magnificent cosmic occurrence. Your parallel self has successfully relocated you into a brand new vibrational headquarters. The transition only felt chaotic because you were desperately trying to drag the heavy, outdated furniture from your old room into the new one. Now, you must awaken to the empowering truth. You are no longer a helpless victim of your circumstances, but rather the beloved and chosen beneficiary of a profound divine intervention. Flowing directly from this profound cosmic shift, you must understand that your previous timeline isn't simply lingering in your rearview mirror. It has been definitively and permanently sealed off. All of its associated historical data has been completely archived. The karmic lessons have been thoroughly digested, and its specific energetic frequency has ceased broadcasting into your current atmospheric space. Moving from that obsolete dimension into this fresh existence demands a radical, ground-up overhaul of how you perceive your day-to-day life. You are absolutely no longer obligated to heal, rehabilitate, or fix the individual you used to be, quite simply because that specific iteration of you belongs to a dimensional space that has ceased to exist in your current awareness. Attempting to untangle and solve the dilemmas of your former timeline is akin to desperately trying to psychoanalyze a fleeting, hazy dream you had over a year ago. It is a completely futile endeavor that acts as a parasitic drain on your present life force. Your newly assigned job description is no longer that of a repairman trying to fix the past, but rather an interior designer tasked with furnishing your brand new present. You have been nudged both forcefully and with immense grace into a fresh existence meticulously prepared for you by the most profound, omniscient facet of your own soul. This monumental event was far from subtle, and it has scattered undeniable quantum fingerprints all over the landscape of your daily life. These are the literal cosmic receipts verifying your successful transit from one solitary thread of the universal tapestry to a completely different one. You have officially outgrown the necessity for the old, outdated roadmaps handed down by gurus and external guides. Right now, you are firmly planted in the post-observer era, an epoch where the archaic laws of strenuous human effort and agonizing delay are being aggressively rewritten by the novel, instantaneous physics of your recent arrival. As you navigate this initial period of acclimatization, it is crucial that you respect the sheer resilience and mastery required to survive where you came from, while simultaneously stepping fully into the raw, untamed power of where you currently stand. Your parallel self, that masterful, higher-dimensional weaver, has already executed all the grueling heavy lifting on your behalf. It expertly traversed the chaotic, infinite labyrinth of multidimensional space just to locate the single, solitary thread that guarantees your most radiant, luminous expression. That profound sense of disorientation you are currently battling is nothing more than the mechanical sound of your internal compass frantically recalibrating to the true magnetic north of this entirely new timeline. You are not losing your sanity. Rather, you are inheriting an entirely new world. The stark silence that has replaced your former chaotic dramas is simply the peaceful quiet of an immaculate blank slate. The icy neutrality you now experience regarding former acquaintances or past iterations of your own ego is the ultimate liberation of a cleanly severed energetic cord. You have essentially been handed a cosmic diploma of graduation, and it has arrived in the confusing, messy disguise of this very disorientation. Welcome to the dawn of a reality entirely curated for you, by you, operating from a heightened state of consciousness that clearly perceives both the genesis and the conclusion of every single timeline. You have successfully weathered the great severance, and now it is time to become fluent in the dialect of the new realm you occupy. Because that thread has been snipped and the old dimension locked away for the very first time in your soul's journey, you are genuinely liberated to start fresh, entirely unburdened by the crushing gravity of what used to be. This is the exact intersection where your everyday explorer self merges with the grand architecture of the cosmic architect. Together, you are beginning to draft a narrative that has never been written in the history of the cosmos. You are not merely walking down a fresh path. You are the living, breathing path manifesting and unfolding in real time. Now, the phenomenon of a timeline collapsing is rarely a quiet procedure within the hidden metaphysical scaffolding of your spirit. However, in our dense physical realm, it frequently shows up as a bizarre sequence of silent, subtle glitches. Up until now, you have probably been misjudging these glitches as symptoms of mental fog, depression, or personal inadequacy. You might have been scanning the horizon for some spectacular cinematic omen, maybe a literal flash of light in the sky or a booming voice from the clouds. But the universe does not work that way. It communicates primarily through the silent language of physics, vibration, and frequency. It leaves behind those aforementioned quantum fingerprints, ironclad proof that you have officially relocated from your old vibrational zip code to a brand new cosmic address. These specific markers are the physical proof of the labor your higher self has already finalized for you. They are the smoldering ashes of a deliberately burned bridge, destroyed specifically so you could never mistakenly stumble back into a toxic reality that was actively suffocating your spirit. If you have been wrestling with a jarring sense of being utterly displaced, I urge you to pay very close attention to the three primary signatures of this dimensional shift. These are not psychological ailments requiring a cure or therapy. They are the triumphant data points confirming your energetic upgrade. The first, and arguably the most disorienting receipt of this transition, is an overwhelming sensation of memory dissociation. I challenge you right now to conjure up a specific memory from roughly 5 years ago. Think of a deeply challenging era, perhaps a grueling romantic separation, a devastating financial blow, or a season of crippling professional panic. You can clearly visualize the scene in your mind's eye, correct? You can vividly recall the architecture of the rooms, the texture of the garments you wore, and the exact dialogue that was exchanged. But notice something vitally important. The fiery emotional charge is completely absent. It feels exactly as though you are sitting in a theater watching a masterfully directed documentary about a vaguely familiar protagonist whom you find somewhat intriguing. But crucially, you harbor zero visceral, bodily connection to their agonizing pain or their soaring victories. This is the premier quantum fingerprint of a severed timeline. Back in your old paradigm, those specific memories functioned as highly dangerous, live electrical wires, sparking aggressively with the current of your previous identity. They possess the terrifying ability to hijack your entire nervous system in a fraction of a second, purely because they were energetically tethered to the dimension you still occupied. But the moment your parallel self executed that cosmic cut, it cleanly sliced the emotional umbilical cord to that entire era. You are now left holding the raw visual footage, but the traumatic audio track has been permanently deleted. You retain the factual data, but the agonizing venom has been fully neutralized. As a result, you can easily glance at old portraits of yourself and experience a freezing, detached neutrality, a genuine, bewildered sensation of asking yourself, who on earth is that stranger? Let me assure you, this profound internal detachment is not a symptom of clinical dissociation or emotional numbness. Rather, it serves as the concrete, undeniable proof that you are simply no longer the protagonist who survived that outdated narrative. You have permanently relocated to a completely different energetic zip code. Consequently, the heavy emotional baggage mailed from your former residence lacks the necessary vibrational postage to reach your current heart. You are, at long last, liberated from the dense gravitational pull of a history that is no longer rightfully yours. And the most beautiful part? This liberation didn't require decades of grueling shadow work or endless psychological excavation. It happened instantaneously because the specific iteration of yourself who once possessed that trauma literally no longer exists upon this newly woven thread of the cosmic tapestry. This realization leads us directly to the second and undeniably the most socially agonizing hallmark of your dimensional leap, the phenomenon of energetic social shedding. Lately, you have likely observed that the very relationships which once served as the absolute bedrock of your existence now feel inexplicably shallow and empty. We are not talking about distant acquaintances here. These are the core foundational pillars of your previous reality: intimate friends, blood relatives, or even deeply embedded romantic partners. Curiously, there has been no explosive drama, no catastrophic betrayal, and no logical justification for the growing chasm. Instead, there is merely a deafening, unexplainable silence between you. Dialogues that previously flowed like a natural, rushing river now feel painstakingly forced, as though you are attempting to converse in a foreign dialect derived from a forgotten ancestral tongue. You catch yourself mechanically playing a character in a theatrical production that officially closed its curtains last season, forcing out scripted lines that taste stale, heavy, and entirely inauthentic on your tongue. This is nothing more than the strict physics of frequency operating in real time. Those individuals functioned as heavy vibrational anchors, keeping you firmly tethered to your former timeline. They acted as the energetic mirrors, constantly reflecting back the version of you that was hopelessly addicted to suffering, or the version that secretly believed it was fundamentally unworthy of ease. When your parallel self forcefully triggered the jump into a higher octave of existence, your core baseline frequency was permanently upgraded. You are now vibrating at a vastly accelerated rate that is physically incompatible with the sluggish rhythm of your past environment. The bond didn't fracture because someone committed a wrong. It organically dissolved because the foundational reality sustaining that connection has literally vanished from your perceptual universe. You are desperately twisting the dial on an old radio, trying to catch a signal from a broadcasting station that went off the air years ago. There is nothing left but white noise. Naturally, this might trigger a profound wave of isolation or even a bizarre pang of survivor's guilt, as if you are somehow abandoning these loved ones. However, you must accept the harsh but beautiful truth. You simply cannot drag heavy, decaying antique furniture into this pristine new sanctuary. You are actively clearing space because this fresh timeline demands to be populated exclusively by souls who deeply resonate with the absolute master you have now become. Release these expiring connections with deep reverence and grace. Thank them silently for their crucial supporting roles in the prologue of your life. and understand that your sudden energetic repulsion from their timeline is actually your higher soul's ultimate defense mechanism, meticulously protecting your newly established frequency. As those heavy, obsolete anchors gently fall to the ocean floor, the third and undoubtedly the most thrilling indicator of your upgrade begins to vividly manifest: the phenomenon of synchronic acceleration. Exactly as the decayed structures of your past dissolve into the ether, your fresh reality aggressively rushes in to fill the energetic void at a velocity that might feel borderline dizzying. This is the magical threshold where you officially graduate from the punishing physics of relentless effort and cross into the effortless physics of pure flow. Back in your expired timeline, you were forced to shove, manipulate, and forcefully engineer every single millimeter of progress. You were essentially a weary miner, endlessly hacking away at a solid wall of granite with a dull pickaxe, praying for a tiny spark of momentum. But here, inside the architecture of your new reality, your desires begin materializing directly in your living room before you even have a chance to walk over and knock on the door of opportunity. You might randomly ponder an obscure, long-forgotten book, and a stranger will inexplicably recommend it to you mere minutes later. You might realize a sudden need for highly specialized information to complete a task, and a video detailing exactly that subject magically populates your feed without a single keystroke of searching. Do not dismiss these miraculous occurrences as mere statistical coincidences. They are, in fact, the booming, undeniable welcome mat rolled out by the conscious universe. They are your ironclad proof that you have finally arrived at a far superior destination. Operating within this post-observer phase, your elevated frequency functions as an impossibly strong magnetic attractor. The cosmos is no longer doling out meager rewards based on the volume of your blood, sweat, and tears. It is simply matching and reflecting the brilliant, high-definition signal you are currently broadcasting. This rapid acceleration is the universe enthusiastically confirming that you are securely fastened to the correct thread of destiny. It is the ultimate indicator that the agonizing time lag, the frustrating delay between desire and manifestation that used to define your earthly experience, has been completely eradicated. You are no longer sitting in the waiting room for your actual life to commence. Instead, you are sitting in the director's chair, watching your glorious new existence assemble itself around you in real time. This is the delivery of the luxurious new furniture I mentioned earlier, specifically selected and perfectly tailored for the magnificent being you embody right now. I invite you to take a deep, centering breath and truly sit with the magnitude of these three cosmic milestones. Reflect on the icy emotional detachment surrounding your past traumas, the hollow drifting apart of your once tight social circles, and the dizzying breakneck speed of your newfound synchronicities. Ask yourself honestly, which of these profound gifts have you been weaponizing against yourself? Have you been secretly agonizing over the fear that you are turning cold, callous, or unfeeling simply because you refuse to mourn a past you outgrew? Have you been drowning in anxiety over your rapidly shrinking social sphere, terrified that you are destined for eternal isolation? Or perhaps you have been actively brushing off these breathtaking synchronicities as blind, dumb luck, subconsciously believing you haven't suffered enough to truly earn such effortless miracles. Starting right now, today, I need you to perceive these phenomena through an entirely different, empowered lens. Starting today, I want you to view these strange occurrences exactly as they are, the ironclad receipts of your spiritual upgrade. They stand as unassailable evidence that this grand cosmic intervention was an absolute triumph. Your higher parallel self did much more than simply relocate your consciousness. It actively bulldozed the obstructions. It meticulously swept away the energetic debris and fertilized the soil of your new existence. Up until this moment, you have been desperately analyzing your current life through the outdated lens of a weary seeker. You catch yourself wondering why survival no longer feels like a grueling uphill battle, or why your daily atmosphere feels so radically foreign. However, the cosmic architect within you does not hunt for unnecessary hardship. The architect purely seeks harmonious alignment. That lingering confusion you feel is merely the mechanical whirring of your internal compass, spinning wildly as it attempts to lock onto a magnetic north that has literally evaporated before finally settling upon the true, undeniable north of your newly established reality. You have officially graduated from the exhausting, endless classroom of becoming and have boldly stepped into the masterful studio of pure being. This profound transition is so absolute that your human mind will frequently try to manufacture phantom crises just to keep itself occupied. It actively hunts for imaginary problems to solve simply because it has no idea how to function in a reality where the equations are already balanced. This is the exact root cause of that hollow, aching grief you might be harboring. I promise you, it is not a genuine grief for what you have lost. Rather, it is the panicked grief of a human ego that has suddenly been fired from its lifelong career as your primary problem solver. But as you step into the role of the navigator of this pristine timeline, your central purpose has fundamentally shifted. You are no longer stationed on this earth to repair the broken artifacts of your past. Your divine mission is now to trace and explore the breathtaking contours of your present moment. You are a sovereign citizen of a magnificent future that was explicitly commissioned on your behalf. This monumental event was never an accident, and it was absolutely never meant as a punishment. It was a predestined appointment. You were finally ready to make the jump, and your parallel self supplied the necessary cosmic leverage. The receipts verifying this transaction surround you everywhere, inscribed in the unmistakable language of emotional neutrality, social silence, and synchronic speed. They are the beautiful fingerprints of a cosmic love so incredibly profound that it was willing to forcefully sever you from your own self-imposed limitations, all so you could finally step back and admire the complete, glorious tapestry. You are not losing your sanity, nor are you losing your life. You are simply shedding a restrictive version of yourself that was far too small for the expansive reality you were destined to inhabit. The former timeline is permanently barricaded. Its energetic footprint has been archived in the cosmic vault, and the radiant signature of your new existence is being etched into the universe with every single breath you draw. You are the cherished beneficiary of a paradigm shift that has completely reauthored the foundational physics of your reality. Therefore, it is time to stop obsessively auditing the receipts and start actually living comfortably inside the magnificent mansion they purchased. This transition is no longer a distant, hopeful promise. It is your permanent, physical residence. You have officially arrived at the final, elevated plateau of this specific spiritual journey, and it is precisely here, upon this summit, that the most vital, profound work, the work of the sovereign navigator, truly commences. Your fundamental job description has been entirely overhauled because the very laws of physics governing your existence were rewritten by the massive shift you just endured. In your obsolete timeline, your identity was forged in the fires of resistance. It was defined by the gritty, bone-deep exhaustion of perpetually trying to mend a fractured version of yourself that stubbornly refused to stay whole. You were that weary miner trapped in a pitch-black tunnel, violently hacking at impenetrable walls of granite, praying desperately to uncover a single, microscopic vein of light to justify your endless suffering. That agonizing position has been permanently terminated. That specific dimension has been officially decommissioned, its corporate offices boarded up, and its heavy files banished to a frequency you no longer possess the capacity to access. You are permanently relieved of the duty to drag around the heavy, cumbersome tools of the eternal striver, or the agonizing burdens of the restless seeker. You have triumphantly walked through a quantum portal into a pristine landscape, lovingly prepared by your parallel self. Your primary objective now is to intimately map the contours of this uncharted territory and construct a beautiful sanctuary within it. You are not some lost, wandering refugee fleeing a burning past. You are an exalted explorer who has just been handed the keys to an entire empire. However, inheriting an empire demands an entirely new echelon of energetic maturity and responsibility. You must train yourself to stop tiptoeing around like an apologetic guest in your own life and start commanding your space as the authoritative navigator of your newly acquired frequency. This phase isn't about memorizing complex new spiritual techniques. It is about reclaiming your inherent, natural authority. The very first hurdle you will encounter as you acclimatize to this timeline is the phenomenon of the echoes. Just because the old thread was cleanly snipped does not guarantee that your human mind will instantly forget the familiar, addictive rhythm of your past struggles. You will inevitably be struck by phantom pains, sudden barrages of intrusive memories, or tidal waves of anxiety that appear to materialize out of thin air. Understand that these are nothing more than the lingering energetic residue of a severed connection. They are the phantom limb sensations radiating from a deceased reality that is no longer spiritually attached to your soul. If you foolishly attempt to wrestle with these echoes, or try to dissect them using your outdated, blunt tools of psychoanalysis, you will tragically grant them the very substance and gravity they lack. You will essentially be throwing punches at a mere shadow cast upon the wall, and in that pointless battle, you will accidentally bleed out your precious new light. You must fiercely internalize the fact that these echoes are absolutely not indicators that your quantum leap failed. They are merely the internal debris being flushed from your energetic system as you physically process the sheer gravity of the jump. To neutralize them efficiently, you must deploy the premier instrument in the navigator's toolkit, the echo dampener. This is not some agonizing, prolonged method for deep dive trauma healing. Rather, it is an empowering process of radical BN, unwavering non-engagement. It is a precise, three-step protocol deliberately engineered to permanently strip your history of any remaining leverage it holds over your nervous system. Whenever an obsolete pang of suffering or a phantom memory of past defeat bubbles up to the surface, you must neither flee from it in terror nor wrap your arms around it in comfort. Initially, you must simply witness its arrival with the detached, clinical observation of a researcher examining a biological specimen. You might whisper to yourself, "Ah, I see the lingering reverberation of that ancient narrative of scarcity," or "There goes the energetic dust of my former reality's panic." You must perceive this intrusive thought strictly as an isolated, external artifact, a stray piece of cosmic debris drifting past your window, rather than a fundamental component of your present identity. Secondly, assign it a title. Affix to it the completely unemotional label of an echo. By staunchly refusing to claim it as my personal panic or my deep-seated trauma, and by exclusively categorizing it as an echo, you ruthlessly strip away its emotional voltage and obliterate its jurisdiction over your current state of being. It ceases to be your factual reality. It is merely a fading acoustic bounce from a corridor you permanently vacated. Lastly, let it drift away. Do not violently shove it out of your mind with brute force. Instead, elegantly retract your mental spotlight and allow it to depart, much like gently uncupping your hands to release a trapped moth into the breeze. Instantly tether your awareness back to the tangible, tactile sensations of your upgraded existence. Focus fiercely on the rhythm of your respiration, the solid, grounding pressure of your soles against the floorboards, or the warm, golden geometry of sunlight painting your walls. This trinity of action, witness, label, and liberate constitutes the ultimate form of spiritual sanitation you can practice as an initiated resident of this fresh dimension. It effectively starves those obsolete neural loops of their only remaining sustenance, your invaluable, focused attention. While you actively neutralize these historical reverberations, you must simultaneously solidify the vibration of your current surroundings. This introduces the second instrument in the sovereign's repertoire, the frequency anchor, your most critical daily discipline. If the dampener serves as your impenetrable shield against the past, the anchor acts as your dynamic, offensive engine for constructing the future. It is a precise, 60-second calibration ceremony that must be executed the moment you wake, before you even interact with the external world. You are not blindly grasping for an elusive emotion. Rather, you are intentionally summoning your chosen foundational resonance, be it profound tranquility, absolute liberation, or crystalline lucidity. Draw this exact vibration straight into the center of your chest, imagining it as a brilliantly glowing, radiant plasma that inflates your lungs and infuses your very bloodstream. As you suspend your breath for a brief pause, feel this luminescence swell outward, actively purging any heavy, stagnant remnants from your dream state and recalibrating every single atom in your body to the elevated pitch of your new universe. Then, as you finally exhale, do not expel the sensation entirely. Instead, project it outward into your physical environment, establishing an impenetrable energetic boundary for the hours ahead. This 60-second ritual is absolutely mandatory because it explicitly dictates to your cellular biology and the surrounding quantum matrix exactly what identity you now hold. It acts as an unbreakable tether, preventing the heavy gravity of outdated behaviors from pulling you back into the bleak, colorless weave of your history. It is your daily pledge of allegiance to your own energetic sovereignty. Residing within this architecture of absolute certainty means you must surrender the exhausting habit of forcing outcomes and adopt the graceful posture of allowing them to materialize. This brings us to the third mechanism, the future landmark. In your defunct reality, you were trained to intensely visualize your goals in order to attract them, but the very concept of attraction inherently screams of distance and a painful lack of ownership. Operating in this elevated, post-observer paradigm, you do not attract, you simply recognize. You must begin viewing your deepest desires not as distant trophies you must hunt down, but as established architectural landmarks that already exist within your new environment, patiently waiting for you to stroll up to their doorstep. Your sole responsibility now is to decorate the space. If you were recently handed the keys to a breathtaking, immaculate new mansion, you would not sit weeping on the pristine hardwood floors, mourning the broken, termite-ridden sofa you abandoned at your old apartment. Instead, you would joyfully begin selecting the vibrant color palettes, the rich textiles, and the luxurious lifestyle you intend to cultivate in this sanctuary. This is the exact essence of furnishing the present moment. You are actively architecting your reality by deliberately selecting which energetic frequencies receive the nourishment of your focus. You are no longer a frantic pupil sweating over a final exam. You are the master designer, handpicking the finest materials for your magnum opus. You are ordering directly from the infinite, boundless catalog of the quantum field. You have successfully weathered the cataclysmic tremor of the timeline collapse. You have masterfully steered through the violent turbulence of the separation and firmly planted your feet upon a glowing, pristine thread of infinite possibility. You are no longer the tragic victim of a psychological breakdown, but rather the undisputed champion of a miraculous breakthrough. The old dimension is not merely behind you, it is utterly extinct. Its gravitational pull can no longer enslave your heart, and its tragic scripts have lost all authorial power over your unfolding destiny. You are a sovereign pilot now, commanding your own vibrational spacecraft, a full-fledged citizen of a utopia engineered specifically by your highest self. This is the exact threshold where you stop desperately searching the darkness for a spark of light and finally realize that you are the blinding light, casting your beam outward into the cosmos. You have permanently graduated from the grueling physics of human effort into the majestic physics of divine grace. The expedition was agonizing, and the battles were bloody, but your arrival is undeniable and absolute. Inhale the profound stillness of your new sanctuary. Acknowledge the breathtaking velocity of your latest synchronicities, and above all else, place your absolute faith in the cool, peaceful neutrality of your upgraded heart. You are standing exactly where the universe always intended you to be, perched at the glorious edge of an existence that no longer demands your suffering as the price of admission for your expansion. Please understand that your presence here in this elevated state is by no means a cosmic accident or a fleeting stroke of luck. It is certainly not a temporary grace period that will inevitably expire and send you crashing back down. Rather, it represents your official, irrevocable promotion within the grand hierarchy of existence. Starting from this exact moment onward, your fundamental operating system has been permanently rewritten. You are no longer navigating the world as an exhausted, desperate seeker. You are now functioning as the ultimate finder who has already secured the treasure. You have ceased to be a struggling manifester, endlessly trying to pull desires from the ether. You are now a powerful actualizer, simply bringing pre-existing, guaranteed truths into the physical light of day. The vast cosmos is no longer paying attention to the frantic words you speak or the pleas you make. Instead, it is flawlessly mirroring the profound energetic weight of your definitive arrival. Therefore, I urge you to stand resolute and tall directly in the epicenter of your spectacular new reality. Allow those ghostly, lingering echoes of your past to quietly dissolve back into the absolute nothingness from which they originated. Ground your elevated frequency with the quiet, unshakable discipline of a grandmaster who intimately understands their own infinite value. And as you begin to joyfully map out the limitless borders of this fresh existence, carry with you the absolute certainty that you are never, ever walking in isolation. You are continuously fortified by the supreme quantum authority of your parallel self, that masterful, higher dimensional weaver who decisively severed the heavy cords of your history purely so you could finally take flight unburdened. You are now the undisputed sovereign navigator of the absolute, and the entire shimmering tapestry of the universe is laid out before you, entirely yours to explore. The monumental shift is finalized. The heavy iron door to the past is locked, sealed, and bolted forever. Your magnificent new life has officially commenced. I invite you to take one final, deep, restorative breath. Truly allow the undeniable gravity of this beautiful truth to settle deeply into your very bones, sinking right into the marrow of your being. You are no longer a weary traveler caught in the messy, chaotic limbo of transition. You have finally arrived. You are home. If you are genuinely prepared to fully embrace this sacred navigator's protocol and permanently lock in your arrival to this higher dimension, I invite you to partake in a powerful act of declaration right now. I want you to type the word present down in the comments section below. Allow that single, potent word to serve as your indelible digital signature upon this brand new timeline. Let it act as a blazing, undeniable flare sent up to the conscious universe and a solemn, unbreakable promise to your own soul, confirming that you have officially ceased looking backward and have finally, completely anchored yourself in the now. The immaculate, untouched canvas of your new life is eagerly awaiting your very first sovereign decree. I look forward to connecting with you again in our next deep exploration of this incredible collective evolution. Welcome, beautifully and finally, to your entirely new reality.